Welcome back to my shop. It's been a long time since I made a video, so I thought I would put something out here. Just recently I made a welding table for my welders. I got some plate and we fabricated a small table. It's about 44 inches by 30 inches or so. Welders kind of conveniently go underneath it. The top of it's 1/4 inch plate. We put some outlets in the front of it just to make it more convenient for grinders. Right there. What I'd like to do is, and I'm already partially through this process, but I searched on YouTube and I didn't see a lot of stuff for a fume hood over a welding bench, over a home welding bench. So I thought I would put this out just because there's not a lot out there on the subject that I could find anyways. But what I'd like to do is put a fume hood over this welding table, somewhere up there. And I already have a switch on the wall and an outlet. You can probably see the outlet box up there high on the wall. And I have a fan, a used fan that I got at an auction, and I welded up a frame that essentially is just a hood that's going to go over the top of that table and collect the welding fumes. And like I said, I'm already partially through this process, but this is what I've got so far. That's going to get mounted right to the wall, and I'll skin that with, I've got some coil stock, essentially just aluminum sheeting, rolled sheeting that I'll probably rivet to that hood. And I've got a fan unit that's going to go, actually will mount on the wall, but the intake of the fan unit will go up through the center of that, of the back of the hood there, that square portion. And the switch on the wall will turn the fan on and off, and I'll probably integrate some lights into this also. Maybe up inside the hood that shine down on the table. That'll make it a little easier to work on that, but it's nice to have a lot of light when you're welding. So that's kind of the plan. It's pretty light. That frame is, I think it's 3/4 inch angle, and essentially I just screw it right into the studs. And I got to figure out a height that works good so it's not in my headspace, obviously a few inches over my head, but and make that welding bench a little more safe. So I'll show you the fan that I've got here in just a second. This is the fan that I'm going to put in the top of that hood. It's a 3rd horsepower. Essentially the intake is on the bottom right there. It's a 4-inch intake, and the exhaust obviously. And I've already kind of fabbed up a few pieces of steel, but I'll have some angle iron that go across here, and then they will be screwed into the studs in the wall, and this port will exhaust right through the wall to the outside. And then this 4-inch intake will be the top of the fume hood, the square portion that I showed you in my frame, and that's where our suction will go. Like I said, 3rd horsepower motor. I have no idea what the cubic feet per minute is. It almost looks like it might have been for a sawdust collection system or something like that, but it was auction find, cheap. But it does move a lot of air. And I think the exhaust on the outside of the building, I'm just going to put it's just a tin dryer vent, like a higher quality dryer vent. And I think I can move enough air through that to get fumes out from underneath that hood. And a few clamps. We might need a little section of 4-inch duct, but we'll see what happens when we get there. That's kind of the plan. And then to sheathe that hood is just some coil stock. It's from a roof project that I had on the house a few years ago, and leftover stuff. So that's the plan. That's the fan, and that's the plan. All right. Here's a little closer look at our frame. Again, it's just 3/4 inch angle welded. And I think I can wrap tin up around this edge, rivet the top end, and then I'll have one piece essentially for the front, and then we'll just probably rivet it in the face of this and then have a strip along the bottom. But a few pieces, but this doesn't weigh much. probably 20 pounds. Again, the steel's pretty small. My goal was to make it light, but just strong enough to serve its intended purpose, which isn't much, collecting dust and fumes. And like I said, kind of wanted to center it over this bench. So we just came up with a center line up the wall, found out where our joists are. And again, we'll put a wall, we'll probably hang the hood up, and that'll tell us where the fan's got to be, and that'll tell us where the hole's got to be in the wall, and then start wiring. That line up there is just an air line, a PEX air line. So that's kind of the before. Okay, I've got a test fit on the wall, and this is kind of the rough location that I want to have it. I guess the things I was thinking about was head clearance from the table, and not just head clearance your head. You're probably going to want to think about the top of a welding helmet. I mean, when you raise the visor, how high is that, and you're going to hit that every time. I'd like to get mine just a little higher, but I don't think I have much more clearance. It could go up an inch or two, but I don't think I have it with my fan. I think I'm pretty much maxed out. Maybe I could get another inch, but we'll see. And the idea is to sheathe that with tin and then just install that fan up in the top through that center square up there, and that's going to shoot out the wall. And again, we got our outlet there, our power and switch feed down here on the wall. There's a switch right behind all that junk there, those cords. I would also like some lights in here. And in my infinite wisdom, I made this 44 inches, the width of my bench, not 48. If it was 48, I could use any LED shop light conveniently. But no, we didn't think of that ahead of time. So maybe some of these lights here, these whatever these things are called, maybe one in each corner up in here shining down kind of on the table would probably work with a regular LED bulb, and I'm trying to convert to LED. They work good and they're much more efficient. So so that's kind of where I think it's going to be. And again, this is probably going to double as like a paint booth type of thing for my wife. She does projects quite often that involve spray paint, and if this thing can suck out some spray paint fumes, that'd be good too. I don't know about sides. I don't want permanent sides on it, but I'm contemplating some kind of a curtain. And by curtain, I would probably use something like this fiberglass mat, welding mat maybe. Or maybe there's some of those high temp tinted curtains that are, you know, a welding curtain, essentially a proper welding curtain that you can see through. So, but we'll work that out later, and I could make some kind of maybe weld a 1/4 inch or a 3/8 rod on the sides, and have that curtain slide back and forth, and I could keep it up against the wall, because I really don't want to, you know, hinder the sides of this. I want to be able to get something bigger in here if I can, or if I have to, and then I'm not fighting with sides. So it'll kind of depend on how it draws. That fan is pretty powerful. It's a 3rd horse. It moves a lot of air. So I'm hoping it's going to capture a lot of welding fumes. They generally rise. But so hopefully that'll work. So that's kind of a good test fit. Again, maybe I'll see if I can squeeze another inch out of that. If we can't, we'll just deal with it. But and then I'll probably mount the fan, finish the metal framework for that, and get that mounted up against the wall. Then sheathe the hood, and then mount the whole thing up at one time. I had to weld on a couple of tabs because my studs didn't really hit exactly where I wanted in that 3/4 inch angle irons. There's not much room to drill a hole to put a screw, so we just welded a couple tabs in there real quick so we could hit some studs. But that's kind of the idea. It's not real scientific. It's just kind of what I drew up, and the angles are just kind of whatever they were, and not a whole lot of planning behind it. Just some quick throw together with some 3/4 inch angle iron. So Okay. This is what it looks like with the fan up here. I think I can get those few inches because we're a few inches from the ceiling, and then that piece of plywood that I have there is also going to come out. So I think we could bump it up just a couple more inches. And then that's how I'm going to attach that to the wall. If you see those two square stock pieces, they're going to have a piece of 1.5" angle iron welded to them that will span the studs on either side of that fan. So that will, there's a stud right there, and there's a stud right there. So that angle iron will go across there. And we may have some reinforcing pieces that'll weld to it too, to make it a little bit stronger, but that fan's not that heavy. So the fan will actually mostly rest or be supported by those angle irons and pieces, and then it will, the inlet will essentially extend right into this hood here, and the hood actually won't support the fan really at all. So okay, that's the plan. So here's my plan for mounting the fan to the stud wall. It's, the stud will be here, the wall will be where the table is, and we'll just screw that into the vertical stud. And it seems extremely sturdy. It might not get anything more than this, other than maybe some rattle can gray. And then this just goes in the other stud, 16 inches spaced. And then this will be the bottom side that'll suck up through the hood, and that'll exhaust out through the wall right there. And just to give you an idea, kind of air we're pulling here. It moves quite a bit of air. I don't even know what this is. Something ventilation company, I don't know. Like I said, it was an auction find. I paid 20 bucks for it, so it should work. And I did measure that. I can get another 2 inches out of that, so I'll get that as tight to the ceiling as I can, just so my helmet's not hitting, because it does right now when I flip it up and try to get in there. So okay, I put a coat of gray on this fan, welded the brackets on, got that all set. So that looks pretty good. So we'll let that dry. I'll hang it up for the day. A little lightheaded, shop's a little fumey here. And we'll let that dry and we'll put some stuff together tomorrow. Well, I've got my fan mounted on the wall, all painted up. I cut the hole roughly on the inside and drilled a pilot hole through the outside siding. And we're working on some tabs for this frame. I need to be able to rivet, and that angle iron right there is not the right angle for the corner, obviously. So I want to weld some tabs on so it doesn't pull the sheet metal in, so it looks kind of smooth. And I also put an electrical box in that corner for a couple of switches for the fan and the light, so I can separate them. I still have the wall switch, it does all the power, but I want to be able to either have lights or fan if I want it. So the metal tabs that we're using on there is just thin. I think it's like 10 gauge stuff, and I'll just cut that here on my Whitney shear. These things are pretty handy. Saves using a grinding wheel. I just clamp it in the vise here, and you can just snip out pieces of tabs for whatever size you need, and it just shears them pretty quickly and easily. Maybe I'll show cutting a few of those. But if you can find one of these at, you know, an auction or whatever, I think this is a Whitney. It's a pretty handy little deal. Yeah, Whitney shear. So we'll set up the camera and cut a few of those and let you guys watch. Here's our tab. This shear puts a little bit of an angle in it, but I just tap it out with a hammer. But to cut these, it's got like a stop, essentially. It keeps that from twisting. But you can shear out stuff pretty quick. And it's a quick way to give you a bunch of tabs. Find another piece here. Tap those straight. And obviously they don't need to be perfect, but it's a quick way to get a bunch of tabs and you don't have to get a grinder out and have sparks and fumes and a mess. So pretty quick way to do it, and if it's just a tab where you're riveting something through it, drilling a hole and riveting it, that works good. I've got some of the skin on this side, and we're just essentially covering those angle irons with the aluminum roofing flashing and just riveting it on there. And then those tabs I cut earlier, I'll show you how they went on. They're just a tab here. This angle, this 90-degree angle, is obviously more than we need. It's less than that. So with these tabs on here, it just makes that a straight shot across there. So that sheet metal on this corner doesn't pull down in like that, and it just makes it look a little better. So that's what we look like so far. We're back working on the hood today. I got the sheathing on it, the tin on it. Just riveted that on, and that's what those tabs look like. I showed you last time just to get that on there. I added an electrical box for some switching up front. I just riveted that all on there. It's pretty thin. It's probably 24 gauge sheet metal, just roof flashing is all it is. And I think I'll hang that back on the wall a little lower in the original spot, and then we'll mark it, and then we'll raise it up into the fan that I've already put on the wall. But that's kind of what it looks like. It's pretty light actually. Probably only weighs 15, 20 pounds. It looks heavier, but. So we'll get that on the wall and see what it looks like. Here's what it looks like on the wall. I've got to cut the hole in the bottom of that. But what we have to do is spot that hole from that from the location of that fan. I'll just extend where that's going to hit down there, and then that'll allow me to push that up a couple of inches and get it a little closer to the ceiling so I have a little more clearance when I weld. But I think that's going to work. We'll cut that hole and we'll raise that up a couple of inches so it extends to the hood, and then we will permanently attach it, I think. I still haven't cut the hole to the exterior, so actually maybe I will do that before I permanently attach the hood, just because it might be a little easier to connect that the exterior pipe to it. So maybe we'll do that. This is what the outside looks like. It's just going to come in underneath that soffit. I just pulled a little bit of siding back. Turns out I don't have any J-channel. I thought I had some in my attic, but I have to get a little bit of J-channel before I actually totally fix the siding, but at least we can get the vent in today. And cutting that hole on the outside, one of these vibratory tools works pretty good. So we'll try that, and we will get that fan in, that vent. Well, we got a fan that blows outside now. We got that, I rolled up a piece of that sheet metal just to make kind of a duct that hooked onto that vent outside, and a switch here. There it is. So now we can put this up there, run that hole through that, connect it to the fan, a little bit of caulk, and then we just got some wiring for the fan switch on the front of it that I put on there. It's actually going to have a couple of switches, one that'll run the light and one that'll run the fan, and then there's kind of another switch on the wall. So we'll get that hood put back up in its final location. Okay, I got the hood up. I'm doing a little bit of testing with a little bit of smoke here just to kind of see the initial efficiency and see how it draws. I'll turn this fan on and you can kind of see where the smoke from this cardboard goes. I would say it draws pretty well, almost maybe better than I expected. Any smoke directly underneath it's definitely going to get pulled up in, and it even draws from the sides pretty well. So I may not need sides on this, we'll see, but just some preliminary testing. Well, I've got it installed on the wall now, and we're hooking up a little electric, putting a double switch in there, and then I need to hook it up to that box up on top. But there'll be a fan for our lights and blower. And what I did is I just took some clamp lights and took the clamp off and welded a little tab on there just to have that shining down. Just takes a regular bulb, so I'll have those. It'll be available to change. So that's the plan. Should have her up and running here in just a second. So here's the completed setup. There's our hood in place over our bench that we made. It'll be just nice to have a spot where I can weld and not have the fumes fill the garage up. Plus, if I had $1 for every time I used that tire machine as a welding table, I'd probably have a lot of dollars. But so it's got a fan, lights. Like I said, the lights are just some clamp lights that I just welded a stud on the end. And just rigged up some wiring in there, just zip tied it together. Nothing real fancy. But we got lights on one switch and then fan on the other. I also do a little bit of reloading and bullet casting and melting lead, and I do a little bit of brazing. So, but the lead underneath with some exhaust will be nice, so I don't have to worry about lead exposure. And when you're brazing, that's kind of nasty too. So it'll be a nice little setup, good spot to weld, and not have fumes in your garage. And I think I'd probably have probably less than $100 in that whole hood, because it's either roof flashing that I had, a fan that I got at an auction cheap, or the steel wasn't much. I think the steel was at 3/4 inch angle iron. I think it was like 50 or 60 bucks. So a little bit of wiring, Probably less than $100. So that should work good. Nice little setup. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.